Okay, so today we're diving into CRISPR.
Okay.
And you sent over some articles on this, and I
Oh.
have to admit, the idea of editing genes, it's a little intimidating. It feels like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It does sound futuristic, doesn't it?
It really does.
But the reality is, CRISPR is already making waves
Wow.
in the scientific community, and it's not just science fiction anymore.
So no flying cars yet,
Not yet.
but we can edit the building blocks of life.
That's right.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Where do we even begin?
Well, the basics are surprisingly straightforward.
Okay.
Imagine CRISPR as a tool,
Okay.
a very precise pair of molecular scissors.
Molecular scissors.
These scissors can target specific genes within DNA and make incredibly precise edits.
Okay, so we've got our molecular scissors.
We do.
What's the big deal with being able to cut and taste DNA?
Right.
Why is everyone so excited about CRISPR?
Well, think about diseases like cystic fibrosis or muscular dystrophy.
Right.
These are caused by specific genetic mutations. With CRISPR, we have the potential to correct those mutations.
Okay.
Actually curing these diseases at the root cause.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So instead of just treating symptoms,
Mm-hmm.
CRISPR could potentially eliminate these diseases altogether.
Exactly. And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Wow.
The potential applications of CRISPR are vast.
Really?
Spanning from medicine and agriculture to biofuels and environmental remediation.
It's almost hard to wrap your head around.
It is. It's a lot.
But you mentioned an article from Sint
Yes.
that brings up some concerns about all of this.
Of course.
It can't all be smooth sailing, right?
You're right. It's crucial to acknowledge the potential downsides
Right.
and ethical considerations surrounding CRISPR.
Yeah.
One of the biggest concerns is the risk of off-target effects.
Off-target effects.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Imagine our molecular scissors accidentally cutting the DNA at the wrong spot.
Oh, no.
These unintended edits could have unpredictable and potentially harmful consequences.
That's a little unnerving.
It is something to think about.
Are there any other risks we should be aware of?
Another challenge is ensuring that the cell's natural repair mechanisms,
Okay.
which kick in after CRISPR makes a cut,
Right.
work correctly.
So they repair it.
They do, but if there are errors during this repair process, it could lead to new problems.
So even if we manage to cut the DNA at the right spot,
Yeah,
things could still go wrong during the repair phase.
exactly.
It's like messing up while sewing a button back on.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And that's why scientists are working tirelessly to improve the precision and safety of CRISPR before it becomes widely used in clinical settings.
Right.
Yeah.
It sounds like a delicate balancing act,
It is.
pushing the boundaries of science while ensuring safety and ethical responsibility.
Absolutely, and that's key.
Speaking of ethics,
Yes,
that seems to be the main concern highlighted in the CNC article, isn't it?
absolutely. And one of the most hotly debated ethical issues is the potential use of CRISPR for human enhancement,
Okay.
not just for treating diseases.
So we're talking about designer babies here, right?
Exactly.
Choosing specific traits for your children,
Yes.
like eye color or intelligence.
Things like that. And this is where things get really complicated.
I can imagine.
Some argue that using CRISPR to enhance human capabilities is a slippery slope,
Yeah?
potentially leading to a new era of genetic inequality and discrimination.
So on one hand, we have the potential to cure diseases and improve human lives.
We do.
But on the other hand, we're stepping into uncharted ethical territory.
Precisely. And navigating this complex landscape will require careful consideration,
Okay.
open dialogue, and a shared understanding of the potential benefits and risks of CRISPR technology.
Well, you've definitely given us a lot to think about.
That's a lot to consider.
But before we dive into the ethics too deeply,
Okay.
I'm curious about the mechanics of CRISPR.
Okay.
How does it actually work on a molecular level?
It's surprisingly elegant, actually.
Okay.
Remember those molecular scissors we talked about?
Yes.
That's a protein called Cas9. But like any good pair of scissors,
Right.
they need a guide to know where to cut.
Okay.
And that's where the CRISPR part comes in.
CRISPR acts like a roadmap for the Cas9 protein.
Exactly. It's a sequence of DNA that guides Cas9 to a specific location in the target DNA.
Okay.
Once there, Cas9 makes a precise cut like a surgeon with a scalpel.
Okay, so CRISPR guides the scissors.
Right.
Cas9 makes the cut.
Yes.
What happens next?
Okay.
How do scientists actually edit the gene at that point?
Think of it like this. After the DNA is cut, the cell wants to repair that damage.
Okay.
It has natural repair mechanisms to patch things up.
Right.
Scientists have figured out how to hijack this process.
Hijack. That
Yeah.
sounds a bit intense.
It's a bit of molecular manipulation.
Okay.
We provide the cell with a template DNA sequence, a blueprint of sorts,
Right.
along with the CRISPR-Cas9 complex.
Hmm.
The cell uses this blueprint to repair the cut,
Okay.
effectively replacing the original sequence with the desired one.
So we're tricking the cell into fixing itself with our instructions.
Essentially, yes,
That's brilliant.
it is pretty amazing.
But I can see how this level of manipulation raises some ethical eyebrows.
Right.
Going back to that Cincy article,
Okay.
where do they suggest we draw the line with CRISPR?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It's a big one.
It is. The article highlights the immense potential of CRISPR,
Right.
but also emphasizes the need for ethical boundaries.
Yeah.
And one of the most pressing concerns revolves around the distinction between therapy and enhancement.
Right. We touched upon that earlier with the whole designer-baby debate.
Yes.
Using CRISPR to treat diseases seems ethically sound,
Right.
but using it to enhance capabilities,
Yeah.
that's where things get murky.
Exactly. Where do we draw the line between treating a debilitating illness and simply enhancing desirable traits?
Right.
Is it ethical to use CRISPR to, say, increase muscle mass or boost cognitive function if there's no underlying medical condition?
It's like the difference between taking medicine and taking performance-enhancing drugs.
Yeah,
Both might alter your body, but the ethical implications are vastly different.
it's a good analogy. And it becomes even more complicated when we consider the potential impact on future generations.
Okay.
Editing the genes of embryos, for instance, could have unforeseen consequences that ripple through their lineage.
Okay, so we're walking a tightrope here,
We are.
balancing incredible potential with the weight of unintended consequences.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
What steps can we take to ensure that we're using CRISPR responsibly?
Well, one crucial step is fostering open and transparent dialogue about these issues.
Okay.
We need scientists, policymakers, and the public
Oh, everyone.
to be actively engaged in conversations about the ethical implications of CRISPR.
So no more science experiments happening behind closed doors.
Yeah, exactly. Transparency is key,
Got it.
and education is paramount. The more people understand about CRISPR, both its potential and its limitations, the better equipped we'll be to make informed decisions about its use.
Knowledge is power, as they say.
Exactly.
But information alone isn't enough. We also need regulations to prevent misuse, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The CNC article points out that editing human embryos to create babies is currently not allowed anywhere in the world.
Okay.
But these are based on ethical agreements, not laws, and those can be broken.
Right, of course.
We need strong, enforceable regulations to prevent reckless applications of this technology.
Because a scientific breakthrough in one country could have global implications.
Precisely. International cooperation and a shared set of ethical guidelines are crucial to ensure that CRISPR is used responsibly and for the benefit of all humankind.
It's a tall order,
It is.
but it sounds like a global conversation is necessary to prevent CRISPR from exacerbating existing inequalities.
Right.
The last thing we need is a world where the wealthy have access to genetic enhancements while others are left behind.
That's a critical concern, and it's one that the SNC article highlights as well.
Okay.
We need to be mindful of the potential for CRISPR to widen the gap between the haves and the have-nots.
It's like a sci-fi dystopia waiting to happen.
Yeah, I know.
A world where your genes determine your destiny.
Right, and it's not just a hypothetical concern.
Right.
We already see disparities in access to healthcare and life-saving treatments.
Sure.
Imagine a world where CRISPR-based therapies are available, but only affordable to the privileged few.
It raises some uncomfortable questions about fairness, justice, and the very meaning of equality.
Indeed. Which is why it's essential that we address these concerns proactively.
Right.
We need to ensure that the development and deployment of CRISPR technology are guided by principles of equity and accessibility.
So it's not just about the
This
science,
is not, it's much bigger than that.
but also about the social and ethical implications.
Exactly.
We need to ensure that everyone benefits from CRISPR, not just a select few.
Exactly. It's about harnessing the power of this technology for the betterment of humanity as a whole.
Okay.
And that requires a collective effort, a global conversation about how we want to shape the future with CRISPR.
So we've covered the need for open dialogue, strong regulations, and a focus on equity. What about the individual listener?
Yeah.
What can they do to navigate this complex landscape?
I think a good starting point is simply staying informed. Read articles like the ones you shared with me.
Okay.
Engage in discussions about CRISPR with friends, family, and colleagues.
So awareness is key.
Yes.
The more we understand about CRISPR, the better equipped we'll be to advocate for its responsible use.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to ask tough questions.
Okay.
Challenge assumptions, consider different perspectives, and demand transparency from those developing and deploying this powerful technology.
Because ultimately, the future of CRISPR is in our hands.
It really is.
It's up to us to decide how this revolutionary tool shapes our world.
We have a lot of power and responsibility here.
We do.
Yeah.
You've given us a lot to think about today.
It is fascinating, though, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts for our listener who might be feeling overwhelmed by all of this?
I don't know if overwhelmed is the word I would use.
Maybe fascinated.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think, there you go. Intrigued.
Yeah.
I think don't be afraid to dive in and engage with these issues.
Right.
Read about CRISPR. Talk about it. Ask questions. Challenge assumptions. The more informed we all are, the better equipped we'll be to navigate the uncharted waters of this revolutionary technology.
On that note, it seems like we've reached the end of our CRISPR deep dive.
I think so.
But this is really just the beginning of the conversation, isn't it?
Well, this is just the beginning, yeah, for sure.
Thanks for joining us on this journey.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, as always.
And remember, the future of CRISPR and perhaps even humanity is in our hands.
Don't forget that.
Let's make sure we use this power wisely. Unintended consequences.
Yeah.
You've got my attention.
It's one thing to talk about editing genes in a lab,
Right.
but quite another to consider the ripple effects those changes might have on a larger scale.
Right.
The Sentience article touches on this,
Okay.
particularly in regards to using CRISPR for, say, disease eradication.
Okay, so give me an example.
Okay.
What could possibly go wrong with, say, wiping out malaria?
Right.
It sounds like a universally good thing.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it's a testament to CRISPR's potential that we even have to ask that question.
All right.
But let's imagine we successfully engineer mosquitoes to be malaria resistant.
Okay.
That changes their biology,
Right.
their interactions with other species, even their role in the ecosystem.
I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
It's like messing with a delicate balance.
It is a delicate balance, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
We might solve one problem, but inadvertently create another.
Exactly. We're still learning about the interconnectedness of ecosystems.
Right.
Eliminating one species,
Yeah.
even one as seemingly troublesome as the disease-carrying mosquito,
Yeah.
could have unforeseen consequences on other populations, food chains, even the environment itself.
It's a sobering reminder that we're not always as clever as we think we are.
That's right.
We need to approach these powerful technologies with a healthy dose of humility.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And it's not just about environmental consequences.
Yep.
There are potential social and cultural implications to consider as well.
Like what?
For instance, certain genetic traits that we might deem undesirable today might have played a vital role in human evolution or adaptation in the past.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So there's a risk that in our quest for genetic perfection,
Yes.
we might erase valuable genetic diversity.
Precisely. Diversity is essential for resilience, both in nature and in human populations.
Okay.
It's what allows us to adapt to changing environments and challenges.
Right.
By eliminating certain traits, even those associated with disease, we might inadvertently make ourselves more vulnerable in the long run.
It's a lot to consider, isn't it?
A lot to consider.
It feels like every potential benefit of CRISPR comes with a potential risk.
It seems that way, right?
That needs to be carefully weighed.
It does. It's the nature of scientific progress, especially when we're dealing with something as fundamental as the building blocks of life.
Right.
It's both exhilarating and daunting.
So where does this leave us then? How do we even begin to navigate these complexities and make responsible decisions about the future of CRISPR?
I think it starts with acknowledging that there are no easy answers.
Okay.
We need to approach CRISPR with a sense of informed cautiousness.
Okay.
We need to prioritize ethical considerations alongside scientific advancements.
It can't just be about what we can do,
Yo,
but what we should do.
exactly. And that requires open and honest conversations, not just among scientists and policymakers, but among everyone.
Right.
CRISPR is going to impact all of us, so we all have a stake in shaping its future.
You've given us a lot to think about today.
It's a fascinating topic.
It really is.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts for our listener who might be feeling overwhelmed by all of this?
I would say don't be afraid to dive in and engage with these issues.
Okay.
Read about CRISPR, talk about it, ask questions, challenge assumptions.
Be informed?
Yes, exactly. The more informed we all are, the better equipped we'll be to navigate the uncharted waters of this revolutionary technology.
On that note, it seems like we've reached the end of our CRISPR deep dive.
It does, doesn't it?
It does,
Yeah.
but this is really just the beginning of the conversation, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. This is a topic we'll be revisiting for sure as more developments emerge.
Right.
Yeah,
Thanks for joining us on this journey.
it's always a pleasure.
And remember, the future of CRISPR and perhaps even humanity is in our hands. Let's make sure we use this power wisely.
Well said.
That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for listening.